We'll give everybody one more minute if that's okay, and then I'm going to do the housekeeping and toss it over to you.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody, good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. It is 9:30. I know I had some people call, asked if this was going to be recorded because they were unable to make it. So we are recording this. We will be putting this on the YouTube channel that can be found on teamtent.org a little bit later this week. But having said that, this is going to be a series that we're going to start doing once a month with various topics to help you and any other leaders to find out about any information you're curious about. This first one's going to be talking about the WEP repeal and Social Security and what that can mean for your retirees, since there is a big push to add IFF retirees into the mix. Next month, we're most likely going to be discussing with the General Counsel's Office, Constitution and bylaws issues and questions. But having said that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our co-host, let him introduce himself. And number one, thank you again, Timothy, for jumping on. So go ahead and I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining today. Give me 1 second. I just threw a bunch of people in the waiting room from that's all right. It's all right. And Steven, how much time do we have? Just so I know I keep on track.
Take it away. We got as much time as you think you're going to need.
Okay, awesome. So we're definitely going to get to the WEP GPO. I'm just going to give you a little back kind of info on Social Security that we kind of do with everybody. I've done this now. This will be my fourth IAFF series that I've done across the country. So excited to be with y'all. I'm coming to, you know, I'm on the East Coast. I'm coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. So what we do, so you're familiar probably with Nationwide and the retirement stuff that we do, folks that you see out in the field. What you may not know is that we have something called the Nationwide Retirement Institute, and that's my group. There's 4 of us that are in the field, plus our boss, plus 2 of our counterparts that are in the home office. So we're set up purely to do education. I don't have any product I'm going to talk to you about. There's not a product in general that's around Social Security, so I'm not here to sell you anything. I will give you some good information. I will probably make you a little bit happier about Social Security going forward. So we give education and insights. We do have interactive tools that you can use, not just ours at the Institute, but other Nationwide tools. All of those come to you guys as free of charge to do planning for retirement. I also cover, just an FYI, if you guys have questions, I also cover Medicare. I also cover long-term care. I also cover HSA, those kind of things. So if any of those questions pop up, we'd be happy to answer those or kind of guide you through when we go there. So choice of a lifetime. Again, you guys are familiar with how this works. Once we turn it on, it's going to be our benefit for as long as we are around. The good changes are that there are benefits now that can be passed to beneficiaries, i.e. a spouse, ex-spouse, that kind of thing. I'm going to walk you through all that. To kind of clear everybody's head, I deal a lot in public sector and a lot in private sector. So my public sector folks and folks that are still eligible to benefit from a pension, that's kind of been your goal, or the mathematical goal when we look at retirement and when we're going to do it, all those good things. And that has your pension calculation as far as age, years of service, all that has nothing to do at all with Social Security. So the only thing that the Social Security Administration does is they say, okay, when were you born? That's going to determine when you can get to 100%. So we can take it as early as 62. The longer we wait, the bigger it grows all the way through, all the way up till 70. But at 100%, or what is called full retirement age, is either 66, 66 in a few months, or 67, okay? What that means is you're at 100%. So reductions, withholdings, penalties, a lot of things go away at full retirement age. You're allowed to have a little bit more freedom. And then if you so choose to do, you can delay it past your full retirement age. It's going to give you more than 100%, and I'll walk you through all those numbers as we get through it. I don't ever tell anybody when to take Social Security because everybody's individual situation is different. And in saying that, people are like, yeah, I get it, but here's my idea what I want to do. Am I in the group? Am I outside? Am I crazy? Like what, my plumber told me I should do this. Like we hear all kind of stories, right? So this is just a graph that says here's the ages and the percent of folks that elect their benefit. We have 23% that are doing it at 62. We have another 24% that are doing it at 63, 64, and 65. Now, I just told you that you don't get 100% and it's a lot more freedom when you get to full retirement age, but half the folks are taking it early. Here's really the only issue that I have if anybody says, hey, I'm taking it at 62 or 63 and like 64. A lot of times, now it's definitely different in public sector with first responders, fire and police that we work with. And oh, let me do something real quick. I think I can. The big issue, like an issue that I have, I'll give you me as an example. If I'm 62 and I say I want to walk away from Nationwide, I want to retire. The minute I retire, what I'm leaving at Nationwide is healthcare benefits. Now my only option for healthcare is either the state exchange or go to private insurance. That's my only two options as far as getting some kind of healthcare benefit. What I've seen with fire and police is there are a lot of different times where there's more lucrative, much better benefits. Things are set up to say, hey, you can either stay in the plan, number one, or we're going to bridge you to 65. It could be a lot of different. There's just different options that you guys have that the public sector doesn't. So if I were to take this chart and push it back to like I don't know mid 70s, early 80s, it really didn't matter where you worked. I grew outside of Pittsburgh. I had people that worked their whole career in the steel mill. You had teachers, firemen, police, car dealerships, banks. But back then, because insurance was so cheap, part of the retirement package would be, hey, once you retire, you can stay on the plan. Well, now you got to fast forward, 4 decades plus, and the cost of health insurance has gone through the roof. So as a business decision, companies, I'm not saying the entities you guys work for. Certain companies will say, we're not going to pay for someone that doesn't work here. So now there's this shift from the 62 age, everybody's kind of migrating to 65 where Medicare's eligibility comes in. So the only thing I tell anybody is if you're going to take it early, only question I ask is how do you have healthcare covered? If you have it covered and it's your personal choice to take it early, then by all means you can take it early. I just don't want people to think that, if you walk away from insurance, that health insurance isn't that expensive because it's insanely expensive. Okay. And then the one thing I will say when people, if everybody could do me a favor too, by the way, if you go up to your toolbar on the top, we got some
No,
folks
we're good. Thank you.
not on mute. If you could go
Thanks.
ahead and mute your phones, I think I just got, there we go. The folks that are running around saying, hey, you got to wait till you're 70. The only way I'll tell you to wait till 70 is if you tell me, how do I get my biggest check? That's the only thing I'm going to tell you. If you don't want to wait till 70, by all means, you don't have to. And as you can see here, less than 10% of folks wait till 70. So again, the range is 62 to 70. Anytime that you want to take it, you're free and clear to do that. That's not a problem. And then what we want to do is say, okay, when they go to calculate, or how do I qualify, number one, and how do they calculate it? Well, to qualify for a Social Security check, what you have to do is pay into the Social Security system for at least 40 quarters. The rule says 10 years, but it's actually broken down by quarters. So there's a dollar amount for each quarter. So if you make, I think it's only around $1,800 a quarter, that's considered a credible quarter. You need 40 of those. So if you have worked somewhere else, or you have a part-time job, or you're going to do something else later, and you pay in for 40 quarters, you're going to get a Social Security check. But when they go to calculate it, and again, think about this versus like what they look at for your pension calculation. They're going to take every year you ever paid in, and they're going to say, okay, take the older years, back 15, 20, 25 years, inflate it to today's dollars with inflation. I need to grab their highest 35. What are their best 35? Through the course of most people's career, if they're on the same career path for a while, then that's going to look like probably your last 35. Some people may have worked at different companies and made more money in the past. But whatever it is, they're going to say 1 through 35. So again, I use me as an example. At 55 years old, they got to go back 35 years. Well, I'm 20 and I'm in college and I'm working at my dad's restaurant and delivering Domino's in the summer. I'm not making squat. But that's one of my numbers. So what I have to hope for in 2025 is that I make more money doing this, hopefully. I think I'm okay, but I make more money doing this than I did delivering pizzas, right? So every year I work, then they drop one off. So next year I work, they're going to keep dropping them off. They're going to say, okay, what's your best 35? They calculate it. What they're calculating for is something called your PIA. You, me, everybody else calls it our check. What is my check? What's my monthly check? What are you paying me? Their definition or their term for that is primary insurance amount, or PIA. Why is this important? That is the core number that you will be paid off of. If your spouse wants a benefit off of yours, that's what they will be paid off of. If you're going to file off of your spouse, you're going to file off of their PIA. It's the calculated number on the day that you hit full retirement age. So for me, it is August of 2037 is when I hit 67. That's what my statement says. Your PIA is that. Now, they have that number. If I so choose, based on the chart I showed you, if I go early at 62, it'll be less. Be a little bit more at 63, a little bit more at 64. I keep getting closer and closer as I move closer to that 100%. So PIA, that's what our core number is. That's how we're going to get paid based off of our work history. So think about people that make a lot of money for a long period of time, 300, 400, 500 grand a year for a long period of time. How big are their Social Security checks? And this is a big misconception. They're not that big. And what I mean by that is the Social Security Administration puts a cap every single year on how much we are taxed on our dollars that we make. So and every year that number goes up. So this year we're at the highest number. I'm going to round it. It's around $178,000. So $1 to 178 is actually taxed or paid into for Social Security. So if someone walks in the Social Security Administration and they look and they sit down and they say, okay, let's look up your work history, and they're like, wow, you made $178,000 for the last 35 years. The next person comes in and sits down at the next desk and they pull it up and they say, what? You made $1.7 million for the last 35 years. Guess what their checks are? They're the same. It doesn't matter that they made 178 or $1.7 million. Any dollar over 178,000, they're not taxing anymore. So there's nothing being taken out. So what that means is if there's a max tax, then there's a max check. The biggest Social Security check that someone can get in 2025 walking in today is right around $3,800. That's it. There's no $6,000, $7,000, $9,000 checks running around. They don't exist. Okay. So that's PIA. Understand that. If you guys have not, I encourage everybody on the call, go ahead and go to the web address that's on the bottom right corner. It's ssa.gov/myaccount. That's where you're going to put in your information, set up your account, username and password, and then on demand, you can see what your reporting looks like based on the statement. Back some of us who are, my age or maybe a little bit older, you remember back in the day when I was in my mid, probably late 20s, when I had an actual kind of real job, they start sending me my Social Security thing in the mail with white envelope and green ink in the corner. I wouldn't even open it and I threw it away, right? And they did that for forever. Send everybody statements every single year. Then this thing called the internet came out. And now they have all the information online so you can go do it. I have it on my phone. I can go look at it if I need to. And the reason I tell you to do that is because the Social Security Administration as a agency is not proactive. They're not. So if we look at what we have here as far as the statement, what we have here are a couple different changes that happened a few years ago. So the horizontal bars are showing you the longer you wait, the bigger your check grows to. Okay. based on this hypothetical 35 years from this person. On the right, what it's going to have is it's going to have your actual chronological years. So you pull your statement up, yours is going to read 2024, 23, 22, going all the way back, if and when you paid in. If you didn't pay in, then it's going to be a 0. If you didn't pay in and it's a 0, that's fine. But what I need you to check is if you know you paid in and it still says 0, they're never going to call you, ever, right? They're going to I tell everybody, if we screw up with Social Security, it's our fault. If the Social Security Administration screws up, it's still our fault. They don't take onus for anything. So just take a peek at it, make sure it's what you remember earning, make sure there's nothing glaring there as far as a problem. There's a lot of great information in there. Again, it helps you to see what your PIA number one, what every year looks like, all that different stuff. If you have a problem with your reporting, there's instructions on what to do to get with them and kind of report on it. I'm pulling this chart up again because I told you I'm going to give you percentages. We're going to talk about that now. So you can go as early as 62, wait all the way to 70. So I'm going to take a 67-year-old, anyone born after 1960, 67 is your full retirement age. This is what it looks like. So if my statement says at 67, Tim, August of 2037, right now it says you're going to get paid $2,000. If you choose to take it early, though, they're going to cut it by 30%. So I'm down to $1,400. I get 70% of that. If I wait a full year, they're going to move that to 75. Next year it goes up to 80. Then it goes to 86, 93, 100. And as I mentioned, if you want to wait past your full retirement age, they're going to add 8% a year for 3 years, take it up to 124%. Sounds good, but I already showed you how many people really do it, right? Less than 10%. So people sit here and they look at the chart and they're like, now I got to figure out what birthday I'm going to take it on. And I'm like, nope, you don't. Here's what happens. When you turn 62, they put you on a clock. And that clock says, okay, this month they turned 62. Did they take the benefit? No. All right, now we're going to go to the next month. Did they take the benefit? No. Every month that you wait is moving you up this chart towards the higher amount. Example, 64 years old. I'm like, man, I got one more year till Medicare. I'm going to stick it out. That's fine. Well, at 64 and 6 months, something happens. I jokingly say, I'm 64 and 6 months old. I get a new manager, and that dude's like 32 years old, and it's not working. So I'm like, I'm out. I'm leaving. So at 64, I had 80, but I didn't take it. Then I go 6 months, and now I'm going to go in and ask for it. So I passed my 64 80%. I'm waited longer than that, but I haven't gotten to 86 yet because I'm not 65. I'm dead in the middle, so I will get 83%. Every month that you wait locks you into a higher amount. Okay? Now, so let's kind of recap real quick. So 35 years paid in, PIA. I need 35 years. Depending on, again, this chart, when am I going to take it? When do I want to take it? Key thing is, do you have healthcare covered? Are you good? Probably a lot of the times you guys with the benefits that you do have some form of healthcare. The other option is if you have a spouse that's working, can you go on their healthcare? Okay. Now we got to transition. Now we're going to get into, and I'm going to walk you through the different filing situations because that will help kind of explain what you can do. And with the repeal of WEP and GPO, what is available to you now, which is a fantastic thing. Okay. So for spouses, why would I use a spousal benefit? You would use the spousal benefit if, in some of your situations, you've never paid into Social Security or you didn't pay in enough, possibly, right? And so if that's the situation, then you have the ability to say, hey, I'm going to go ahead.
This is a webinar.
Let me hold on. Let me get a couple of these. You can now reach over to your spouse and you can say, hey, they have a work history. I can use that and I can get a check. Easy example I give you is my parents. So Tim and Chris, mom and dad, got married when mom was 21 years old. Dad was a few years older. At 21, for her to be eligible for Social Security, she would have had to have worked for 10 years, meaning since she was 11. And she didn't do that. Okay. Once they were engaged, want to get married, yep, they moved locations. They're both from Indianapolis. They moved to Ohio, where I was born and raised. I was born first, my brother 2 years later, and then 4 years after that was my sister. So there's a 6 year spread there. Whole time she's raised, she goes, look, I'll run the house, you run the business, stay the heck out of my way to my dad. He's like, okay, deal. So that whole time she's not paying into Social Security, she's not getting any credits. Then once my sister graduates and goes off to college, my mom goes to my dad, hey, I'm bored out of my mind. What do I do? He goes, come down to the restaurant, work there, and I'll pay you under the table. My mom's like, sweet. Give me cash, every week. I love it. But what's that doing for Social Security? Every year is a zero. You pull up my mom's statement right now, her benefit amount is 0.00. She never paid in for 10 years. But she's married to my dad. So how do you what do you need eligibility wise to file off of a spouse? Well, you and your spouse both must be 62 or older. You must be married to that person for at least 1 year. And then your spouse must have elected and start receiving their Social Security check. What that does for you or for anybody, for my mom, once my dad filed, it opens it up to say, hey, my spouse can now use my work history to pay them. The Social Security Administration says absolutely, but there's no way we're paying them the same that we're paying you. We'll pay them half of what we pay you. So the rule says you get up to that magic number I told you about, PIA. Remember, PIA is 1 month in time. So it's $1 amount. And your spouse can get up to 50%. So I'll run you through some examples. So let's make mom and dad the same age. They're both 66 years old. Dad goes in at 66, files, they go, Tim, here's your check for $2,000. That was their full retirement age based on their year of birth. My mom goes in, she goes, I'm 66. They go, okay, check that first box. Married to this guy for God knows, 42 years, 43 years, whatever it is. They go, okay, check that box. And he just filed. They go, okay, all 3 boxes are checked. We can now give you a check. So they take the 2,000, which is my dad's PIA, times 50% and write my mom a check for 1,000. My dad keeps his 2, mom gets 1,000. Now together the household has $3,000. Okay? Because my mom didn't have a work history. If my mom, let's say, had worked part-time, did this, did that, and had a check in her own account for $1,200, well, then she's not going to use spousal because it's 1,000, but she would go over and use her own and get $1,200. You can never, ever get 2 checks. Can't get 2 checks. One person can't receive 2 benefit checks, okay? Now, let's go back and talk about penalties, withdrawals, reductions. The big thing is I just showed you the chart. So the one thing that will always reduce your check is age. So now I'm going to make dad 66 and mom 62. Dad goes in, he gets his check for $2,000. Mom goes in and says, I'm 62. They go, check. She has been married long enough. They go, check. And he just got his benefits. They go, you're good to go. She goes, okay, give me a check for $1,000. They go, no. If you were 66, we would give you $1,000. You're only 62. We're going to knock it down to 70%. Age will always reduce your check. Okay. Now, here's the big thing that I run into with couples with the spousal benefit. They see, like on the screen where it says benefit up, they can sit there and read up to 50% of PIA, but the only thing they hear is 50%. And so they think it's 50% of the spouse's check. So back to mom and dad, make them 66. Dad says, look, I can get a check right now for $2,000. Or I can wait till 70 and get a check for $2,600. And then he says, you get half. So now all of a sudden, my mom's like, well, one of the triggers for me to get a check is you have to file, you haven't filed. So if you wait, I have to wait. So they get to 70, my dad runs in, they go, here's your check for $2,600. Dad turns to mom and says, look, this is great, $2,600. Chris goes, okay, can I have a check? They go, yep, here's your check for $1,000. My mom's like, no, I get half his check. They're like, no, you don't. You get half of PIA. PIA was 4 years ago when he was 66. That number was 2 grand. The most a spouse can ever get is 50% of the 2 grand. That's it. So I literally have had done this seminar, especially live, and I can all of a sudden see couples, they're talking, they're like, oh crap. And they come up after, like, we were waiting. I'm like, I would go file tomorrow. The check's not going to get any bigger for that other spouse. Okay. So that's spousal benefits. And again, that'll come back into play when we talk about WEP and GPO. Next, surviving spouse. It's a different set of rules. This one says you must be married for only 9 months, not a year. I don't know why. It's just one of the quirky 2,700 rules. I've never had anybody explain to me why. Also, it's the only time I can tell you that benefits can be taken earlier than 62. It can be taken as early as 60. But a lot of times what we see is there is another penalty out there called the earnings test, where if you are working and getting a paycheck, but you want to file for benefits, there's an additional penalty. And I can go through and show you the math. I just didn't want to bore you with it today because I know we want to cover WEP and GPO. But a lot of people will run in at 60 and say, hey, I want to get paid. And they're like, are you working? And they're like, yeah. And they do the math and they're like, well, it's going to destroy your check. It's literally not a good thing to do. You need to wait till later if you're going to take the spousal benefit or the survivor benefit. Okay. If unfortunately, like if I'm 55 and I pass away, my wife has a survivor benefit. If she were to remarry before 60 and then walk in at 60 and says, look, I'm not working, I want the survivor benefit, they're going to be, well, you can't because you currently are a spouse because you remarried under 60. If she remarries after 60, they don't care. So it's a really weird, again, quirky rule. Surviving is probably one of the tougher ones that we have to explain or go through with folks. But in general, here's how it works. Back to mom and dad. 66 years old, dad's getting $2, mom's getting $1,000. We're going to fast forward and make them 75 years old. They have cost of living adjustments. Their checks have gone up. Dad's getting $2,800, mom's getting $1,400. Mom passes away. Well, what happens? Well, theoretically, that Social Security number is put onto a death certificate. That death certificate is then submitted to all the different agencies. They come in and they go, okay, freeze all benefits for Chris O'Mara as of this date. My dad can't not get 2 checks. His was 28, hers was 14, hers just goes away. But if we flip that and dad passes away first, mom's sitting there with 14, dad was getting 28. Same thing's going to happen. His Social Security number is going to be put on a death certificate. It's going to get submitted. All benefits are going to freeze. But my mom is eligible, because she is now a survivor, to go in and say, hey, my check is only 14. My deceased husband's was 28. Can I have the 28? And they're like, yes. So they take her 14 away and retitle the $2,800 into my mom's name. Now that's her amount going forward. Here's the problem. They're not going to call people and say, hey, you want to come in and get your survivor benefits. I've had this, if not once, probably twice a year, because I do this all up and down the East Coast. I've had people come to me and be like, hey, it's usually about mom and dad, like I'm talking about. They're like, wait a minute, my dad died like 2 years ago. Should my mom, I go, if she never looked at it, she needs to call and find out, because they're never going to call her. They never did, right? It's been 2 years. Now, if that happens and people are like, well, it's been 2 years, will they pay me back? Guess what they're going to say? It's, what I told you before. Well, you screwed up. That's your fault. Like, well, what if you screwed up? Well, it's still your fault. You know what I mean? So we have to be proactive in understanding what can we ask for, what is available, how do we file, when do we file, all those things. And literally, I have gotten into conversations with folks that have said, this is what the Social Security Administration told me. And I tell them to their face, they're wrong. It's just, they don't have the ability to train these people. So there's a lot of misinformation, wrong information, all this different stuff, or the jargon that they use gets
On a
twisted.
mop, you need to go
And
in.
so, oops. And so we just have to do a lot of explaining around a lot of different things. Okay. Let me see. I got to hit remit real quick. There we go. So that's surviving spouses. Okay. And again, we can come back and revisit these as we open it up for questions. Absolutely no problem there. One last thing with surviving spouses. Go back to that scenario where dad goes, hey, great idea. We're going to wait till I get to 70 and we're going to get bigger checks. We know that was a debacle, right? But he doesn't make it to 70. He dies at 69. Every year, he went from 66 to 67 to 68. And at 69 on his birthday, he dies. Now my mom's sitting there saying, what do I do? He never filed. I never filed. He wanted to wait till 70. Do I keep waiting? The answer is no. There's no benefit. Once the death certificate is filed, all benefits freeze upon the day of death. But what my mom is eligible for is anything that my dad was receiving or would be set to receive on that day of death. So he went up every single year. So he went from 100% to 108, 116, 124. My mom would get all of that amount that my dad was basically delaying for. She gets all those credits, so she gets the increased check. But everything freezes. There's no sense for mom to wait, anything like that. And one caveat in general, for anyone that you know over 70, there's no reason for anyone over 70 not taking their check. There's no benefit at all to not be taking your Social Security check over 70. Okay. Divorced spouses. Now you heard about my mom and dad. Now I'm going to introduce you to my in-laws. Love them to death. They were married for 16 years, divorced. I throw them under the bus every presentation. They all know about it. I've been doing this for years. They know I make fun of them. So let's talk about eligibility for divorced spouses. You must be married for at least 10 years. Okay. You have to show marriage certificate, divorce decree. Was it 10 years? If that's the situation and you are currently unmarried, you can go file on your ex in the future when you get to 62, just like you're still married to them. Doesn't matter what they do. And I'll run you through some examples. So also, remember how one of the triggers for my mom was she could never file to ask for a spousal benefit until my dad was receiving benefits. So my in-laws, Tom and Carol, could you imagine if I went to my father-in-law years ago? He's 80 now. I go to my father-in-law and I say, hey, Tom, you do me a favor. He's like, yeah, what's that? I go, I need you to go file for your Social Security benefits in order for your ex-wife, Carol, to come in and file and get paid. He'd be like, what'd you just say? I'm like, yeah, I need you to file because Carol wants to get a Social Security check off your work history. He'd probably tell me to go somewhere not very nice, number one. And then he'd sit back, think about it, and say, she can't get a check until I file for my check? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, I'm not filing until I'm 90. And I'm like, oh, God. So they take that out. If you look at the third bullet under eligibility, if you were married for at least 10 years and the divorce has been more than 2 years, you are free to file off of your ex and they are free to file off of you if that benefit is better than what they already have. So in a lot of situations with fire and with police, if you never paid in, but you were married for 10 or plus years, divorced now for more than 2, at some point you can still, even though you're not married and haven't been married to him for 15, 20 years, the 10-year marriage makes you eligible to go back and say, hey, I want to file and get a spousal. Now, before, when we get into WEP and GPO, a lot of times you were told, nah, you can't do it. But we're going to go through that in a minute, okay? Now, talking about my in-laws. So, and it's the same thing because to my mother-in-law's, dismay, I guess, she thought that once I'm eligible and once I file on his work history, I'm going to stick it to him one more time and I'm going to take half his check. And I'm like, Jesus, no, it's not how it works. It's just like like if you were married. He goes in and gets $2,000. You go in at full retirement age and ask for half. They give you 1,000. He has 2,000. He couldn't stop you from taking it, and if you took it from him, it didn't reduce his check at all. And if I've had people tell me, "No, Tim, you're wrong. We put it in a divorce decree that they can't touch my Social Security," and I'm like, "You paid the wrong attorney because there's no ill will. Your check will stay the same. They can't stop you." So it's the same percentages as if you were still married. You got to prove a 10-year marriage, and you can't be married to someone else. Because I've literally had people sitting there in a presentation, look at each other, and again, they'll come out and they don't want to embarrass themselves. They're like, "Wait a minute." She'll go, "I can't file off my first husband." And I'm like, "Are you married to this guy?" And they're like, "Yeah." I go, "No, you're a spouse. You're married. You can't. You have to be unmarried." Okay. And then we get into what I call the Jerry Springer conversation. Hypothetically, my in-laws were married for 16 years, they get a divorce. What if my father-in-law gets married for another 11 years and gets a divorce? He has not one, but two exes. Okay. So what he does, he just goes in, he files when he's at full retirement age. As I showed you on the chart, he gets 100%. My mother-in-law goes in and she's at her full retirement age. And she goes, "I was married for 16 years. I want 50%. They go, here's your 50%. Ex number two goes, "Hold on. Me too. 11 years. I'm at full retirement age. I want the 50%. They go, "Here you go." Pay them both. And then, hypothetically, my father in law marries his 65-year-old girlfriend. Could happen. After a year of marriage, she becomes the current spouse and says, "Hey, I'm over 62. I've been married for a year. I want 50% because I'm not an ex, I'm a current." And they go, "Sure, we'll pay you too." What? He's getting his 100%. Current wife gets 50. X1 gets 50. X2 gets 50. We're paying four people 250%. Sounds like bad math to me. And then it gets worse. My father-in-law, hypothetically again, passes away. I jokingly say he passes away because he was married 3 times, but he he passes away. Well, current spouse goes, "I'm now the survivor. So we just went over survivor benefits. I can drop my small check and pick up his big check. So I want 100%. They go, "Sure, you can have 100%. As an ex-spouse, you are an ex-spouse until your ex-spouse dies. Then you become an ex-surviving spouse. Now my mother-in-law can walk in and say, "Hey, I was getting an ex-spousal benefit at 50. I understand he passed away. Can I step up to 100%? They go, "Yes, you can." So now she's at 100%. Ex number two goes, "Hold on, me too. I want 100." They go, "Sure." Now we have 3 people getting 300%. It's and everybody's doing everything by the book. It's just wacky math. It's crazy. Okay, insane. Now what we want to do, so now we understand spousal, ex, survivor, all that. Now we want to walk into what's happened in your world, right? So as of January 5th of this year, WEP and GPO have been abolished. So what that means is anyone right now going forward, if you have a Social Security account, if you're doing anything or have paid in your 40 quarters, at some point you can go ahead and get your own Social Security if you've paid in. And in the past, WEP came in and said, your own Social Security check has to be reduced by this pension over here that is never paid into Social Security. Excuse my French, bullshit thing. Should never have been there. It was supposed to be a Band-Aid thing for a little bit, but now it's gone, so we don't have to worry about it. So, but that one was, WEP was, hey, we're going to take up to a certain dollar amount. There was a cap. So it wasn't as brutal as when I talk about GPO. So WEP is my Social Security check and my pension. This is going to ding this check a little bit, but there's usually some left over. Okay. That's gone. So now I encourage everybody, make sure that you get onto, SSA.gov, look at what your Social Security account says. if you've paid in or if you have not. I don't have any access to any of that stuff. So that's what WEP did. Okay. Again, that's been abolished. And then also now we have is government pension offset. So this is different. This is that example I used. Let's say one of you on the call has never, ever, ever paid in for 40 quarters. You may have paid in for, I don't know, 10, 20 quarters, but you don't have a Social Security benefit, but you're married to someone. So this is you reaching over and wanting to take a spousal benefit or an ex-spousal benefit or unfortunately a survivor benefit, okay, off of your either ex or off of your spouse or off of the person that has passed. Here's how government pension offset works. The calculation was we're going to take 2/3 of whatever you get in a pension and take that as the reduction. And they didn't care if that reduction took you all the way down to zero and wiped out the benefit. So think about anybody that you know that may already be retired, okay? And they're sitting out there, and 3, 4, 5 years ago, they went in and said, "Yeah, can I do a spousal?" And they did the math, and they said, "No, your 2/3 of your pension subtracting from what you can get takes you to zero. You don't have a benefit." So what did they do? They got up, turned around, and left. Right? They never filed. They're like, I mean, why am I'm not going to file for a zero check. You're not going to do anything. So they left. Same thing if you're a survivor. If you have a survivor benefit and there's still this 2/3 reduction, here's the amount. 2/3 is a reduction, takes it to zero. There's a lot of folks that are out there that were told by the Social Security Administration for years, there's no benefit for you to get. Now there is, because it went away. So what they've done is say, okay, WEP is gone, GPO is gone. If anybody was already affected by WEP, or if you had something from GPO, but it was getting reduced, right, because of the amount, but you were getting something, they're going to go all the way back to January 1 of 2024 and say that whole year, all the way up until you file, we're going to give you a retro payment. So if someone was told 3, 4 years ago, you can't get a check, and they're sitting there, if they go in right now and say, hey, I want to file now because GPO is gone, and like, sure, now you're going to get a check for, I'm just going to make the number up, $1,000, and you should have been getting $1,000 as of January 1 of 2024, and it's now August, they're going to give you 12 months from last year, and then all 7 or maybe 8 months of this year. So it could be $19,000 to $20,000 that's sitting on the table that folks are eligible for if they're already over 62 and they've been told they couldn't get a check. Because the Social Security Administration only knows what is in the system of the folks that is getting reduced. Why am I telling you that? Because now what we have is we have a ton of people. So the total number that's in the system that they know is getting reduced is 3.1 million people are getting reduced. That doesn't include the people that got up from the table and was told your check is zero and walked out. And we're running into these people every month. They're like, wait a minute, I never filed. I go, I know, you were told you couldn't. Again, do you think they're going to call those people and say, hey, why don't you come back in? We want to write you a check. No, they're not. So, you know, if at all, when you have any of the folks, the older folks that have already retired, any kind of get together, any kind of communication that you can say, hey, if you ever were told you couldn't get a Social Security check, they need to go back into and talk with them. Because there's a lot of people that are getting checks now that never got it. Now, the reason I say that, because again, I'm all for it. But the problem is this is creating anywhere between, the numbers are a little different, anywhere between in these additional payouts, an additional 20 to $23 billion getting pulled out of Social Security to pay these benefits, which is fine because they should have been paid anyway. But what we have a dilemma in Social Security right now, the numbers bounce between 2034 and 2035. In that given year, when people run around and say, hey, you better take Social Security as soon as you can because it's going broke, it's going to zero, it's functionally impossible for it to go to zero. Here's why. We work we have a paycheck, we pay into Social Security, or the employer pays into Social Security, or your spouse is working and pays into Social Security, you're going to take that back, whichever it is. So every single year, we're paying in, employers are contributing to the bucket of money. And we take that bucket of money, we pay everybody else on the other side that wants a check. Well, the problem is we have almost 12,000 people a day turning 66 and asking for money. So they're not working anymore, putting money in. They're on the other side saying, here, you don't have my money that I put in, but now I want paid. So we keep losing all these people. And at some point, the amount of money that we have to pay out is going to be less than what we need to pay everyone. It's called insolvency or shortfall. It doesn't mean zero, but everybody wants to scream zero. So that insolvency was going to happen right around 2035. The calculation is that in 2035, when you woke up, if you were getting paid $1,000 the year before, you would get paid around $780. It's not good, but it's not the people that are running around saying Social Security is going to go broke, you will never get a check. It functionally can't happen. It'll be reduced, but not zero. That was a calculation before we said, hey, we're going to go back and we're going to pay out $20 to $23 billion. So guess what that does? It brings that 2035 number closer for everybody that's in Social Security. So it's more important now than ever to understand what your statement looks like. More important than ever to kind of just keep an ear out for what people are working on as far as you know, the validity of Social Security. There's certain things that they can do to fix it. I was in DC back in almost a decade ago, yeah, and there was stuff floating around there that said, hey, if we do this and we do this and we do this, and then we work with a company called Covisum, and like we sent some stuff into DC about, hey, here's some ideas on how you can try to balance this with tax and with CPI and different things. So there's things they can do. It's just, it was down the road. And now all of a sudden, you know, you're still with this year. Well, it's still 10 years away. Wait a minute. Now it's only 8. So there's going to have to be something done. So just keep your ears out. But the most important thing is get your statement so you understand. See what your amount would be. Get your spouse's statement if that's going to be the avenue that you're going to go down. If you need help, where we can come in is we do Social Security analysis for you. Okay? I'm not going to ask you for your Social Security number. I'm not going to go in your Social Security account. Can't do that. What I'm going to ask you for, though, is I'm going to ask you for a couple variables. One's homework, and then 2 are variables. One, homework. I need you to go and look at either your statement, if that's what we're going to do it for. If you're married, we'll do both statements. But if you don't have a benefit and you're going to do a spousal, that one. If you want to do off of your ex and you have their information or can get it, I know it's touchy. I get it. If you can get that information, meaning I need that all-important number PIA. So for a couple, I need yours and hers. For a couple with someone that didn't pay in, I need just hers so we can show what, or his, so we can show what the spouse's amount is and if the spousal benefit would be, depending on if you're going to take that. Same with an ex, and then survivor. We can do all of that analysis for you. It's just a little bit of homework, meaning I need the PIA of the person that you're going to be filing off of, or your own PIA. Okay. What we'll do is we'll run it out. The 2 variables I was telling you is I'm not going to tell you life expectancy in this program. It says you can elect your life expectancy. And I suggest if you run it, run a couple different ones, right? Pick a number, whatever you want it to be. Because again, the people that are running around saying, hey, you got to take a check as soon as possible, because in their head, they're like, you get it as early as possible. That's the most checks until you pass. It all depends on how long you live. And so the break-even kind of rule of thumb I tell everybody is if you take it at 62, and then someone that made the same exact amount of money as you takes it at 66 or 67, break-even is 79. So if you say, well, I don't think I'm going to live that long, fine, take it at 62. That's what I'm saying. I don't have a problem. If you think maybe I could live to 82, I don't know. If you want to say that, you can delay. No, and so we give you all these. So the navy blue one is, how do I get the most money back in our situation? Okay, that's going to be completely different than everybody else's situation on a call. And they say, well, no, I don't like that one because in that situation, we told the male to wait till 80. I'm sorry, till 70 and get paid till he was 80. And then the balance of then his benefit passes on to his spouse that's 3 years younger. He's like, I'm not doing it. So as we start moving it closer in the light green, we say, okay, we'll put you both at 67. Not as much money, but they didn't want to wait till 70 anyway, so get rid of the navy blue one. It wasn't in their game plan. Then she raises her hand and says, well, he's 3 years older than me. If he goes at 67, I'm going at 64. We're done. So start mine at 64, which is royal blue. There's nothing wrong with any three of these. It's just you can't go to the Social Security Administration and say, hey, can you run this report that shows me side by side if we did this, if we did this, if we did this, what it looks like. They'll never do it for you. We will. Okay. Then the other variable we have is this is kind of retirement planning 101. This is where I want to get you in the mindset, and I'm talking probably anyone my age or older. You can do it younger by all means, but 55 and older, especially if the younger guys if you're going to max out on pension and you're going to go out, under 55 or under 60, by all means, and you have Social Security questions, we can do it for you. But what we do here is get you in the mindset of saying, okay, once I stop working, I don't have any more paychecks, but I still got all these gosh darn bills, right? That I got to pay. So now I have to take pension. I have to take Social Security if I have it or off my spouse. I got to take investments, savings, any kind of deferred comp, anything that we have. I got to recreate cash flow. The question I'm going to ask you is, how much money do you need in a given year? So this couple says, well, we were both worked our whole lives. So in retirement, we want to enjoy it. So let's say we need $100,000 to pay and live the way we want. For all of our bills, it's $100,000. I'm like, okay, fine. They both get Social Security, and I tell them, I hate to break it to you, but you're not getting $100,000 from Social Security. I don't ask them if they have a pension. I don't ask them if they have savings. This is just step one. Step one is show me your PIA. I'll calculate it. I'll tell you how much of the $100,000 it'll cover. Now, the problem is if you need $100,000 this year, you need $100,000 plus inflation next year, add inflation again. Every single year, that $100,000 is more and more and more because everything is expensive. So then we break it down into basically a spreadsheet, and we just show you. Here's what his benefit looks like. Here's what her benefit looks like. Is it a retirement benefit, meaning your own? Is it a spousal benefit, if that comes into play, which maybe for a lot of you will show you as getting a spousal? And then is there a widow? So as you can see on hers, Kelly in the middle, she was getting her own benefit until he passed, and then she moved over and got a widow benefit. Okay? And we just spreadsheet everything for you so you have information. Again, all this is free of charge. After you get your PIA, it's super easy to do it. It's just front and back of one page to do it, to fill out the questionnaire. This is what it looks like, just so if you ever get it, it'll ask you about you. There is a part in there that asks about WEP and GPO. Skip it. You don't have to answer it anymore. But we can help let you kind of look into the future at what Social Security can be, whether it's yours again, or whether it's off of a spouse, off of an ex, or unfortunately as a survivor. Okay. And Steven, that's kind of it for me, other than we can open it up and answer some questions.
Perfect, Tim. I really appreciate you jumping on. As Tim said, does anybody have any questions for Tim?
Let me see. Is there
Sean
anything?
says, can you explain the quarters?
Yeah. So a quarter, they have a dollar amount every year. And so a year is 4 quarters. It's a little wonky though. So let's say if I tell you that a quarter is 2,500 and you make $10,000 in the first quarter, you actually get all 4 quarters. So they say it's a quarter amount, but then they turn around and they total it. So if you and the numbers are not very high. I'm telling you 2,500, it's more like I think 14 or 1,500 a quarter. So if you're doing whatever you're doing and you have a part-time job, if you have a small business and all that stuff, and you are probably getting quarters, that's why it's important. You will know if you look on your Social Security statement, because it'll either be just a flat out zero or there'll be something paid in because of what you did for work. Yeah, SSA.
If I could just ask you personally real quick on unmuted. So I've logged in and done this on SSA, the login that you told us to file out. So as an example, I would show from the small amounts of money, being younger, whatever, Jamba Juice, blah, blah, blah. You get into the fire service, it's showing $0 until it looks like, for me personally, like a small portion, but being paid, being on like the executive board, most of us that are here right now. So now all of a sudden we will show, and that would also include any of our members that work like any job elsewhere that they collect a W-2 from, right? Or they file
Yeah, so it's
W-4. Okay.
yeah, any wage employee, number one. Um, Not so much. We run into it with police a lot of times where there'll be not on a W-2, but there'll be a contract 1099 employee that still involves FICA. And then if anybody here, has a small business, it includes FICA as well. So whatever earnings from the small business, all those are the three key ones. But anything that you have paid into Social Security will show up. And like you said, though, if the only income was coming from the fire department that was not paying into Social Security, then it will show as zero, as it
Got it.
should, because those dollars have been deployed over to your private pension, which you will receive through them, not through Social Security. But
Thank you.
now, back to my point, if those total up enough and you can get any amount of money, in the past they used to say, okay, you're going to take that amount of money, we're going to reduce it, right? Now that's all gone, so it's a good thing.
Awesome. Hopefully that answers your question, Sean. We got a couple more. Tim, Local 2274 was asking if their nationwide rep would be able to help out with the Social Security questions, or do they contact you?
You can always start with them based on the questions. They'll probably get referred, if not directly to me. So I'm in Charlotte on the East Coast. Another gentleman is in Ohio, and we have another guy in Denver, and then we have kind of a director that kind of floats over all of us. You guys can email me or call me if you have questions. By all means, I'll put that out there. But if you can't get to me, the local nationwide rep may send you to our income planning team, which is an extension of us. They just don't sit they sit at Columbus. They're the ones that actually work on the reports. So they sit in Columbus. They're not out in the field like we are. But we'll get your answers for you. I would start with them.
Awesome. And then Anthony was asking if a lot of our members are former military and receive VA benefits as well as disability benefits. Do any of those impact Social Security?
If there was a disability benefit, then unfortunately some of those possibly could have been affected by WEP or GPO. They would know if it was or wasn't, meaning it's a pain point. Like they already know, like, yeah, I'm not getting the full amount. If that's the situation, number one, the folks that are in, let me kind of go back. The folks that are in the system and getting a reduction already, that's an automatic upgrade. That should have happened in the system, and checks should already be going out, plus the retro check. That should have been completed from what they told us by July. We're in August now. If someone's like, yeah, my check is still being reduced and it's supposed to be made full, you got to call them, because you're due all those retro months all the way back to January 1 of 2024.
Right, but I think he's asking, and I apologize, I should have clarified that if a VA disability benefit or having VA benefits decreases your ability to
No.
claim Social Security.
No.
Okay, perfect.
No.
Yep, and then the next question I think you just answered. Do they have to refile? It says should be automatic, and they should have already gotten it. If they don't, they should file.
Yeah,
right?
So think of it, if I'm in the system and I'm getting reduced, they go through and they get the reduction out of there and they make me whole, and then they give me the retro check. But the thing that is just a lot of people don't realize is there are people that have been going into the Social Security Administration and sitting there saying, hey, here's my pension from working at the department. I don't have my own Social Security. I want to use my spouse. And they say, okay, your spouse made $3,000. You can get $1,500. Your reduction is $2,000. You get zero. They get up and leave. They're not in the system. Those are the ones in some form or fashion. I don't know how. Only thing I can say is word of mouth, you know, and stuff like that. You know, it's kind of heartbreaking to me because people are like, yeah, I just talked to a guy, you know, and he's ecstatic because he's going to get another $1,200 a month that he was never getting for years because of that crap rule. So it's good. We just got to get the word to them.
Okay.
Those are the people that have to refile though, because they walked out and never filed for anything. They're like, why am I going to file for a zero check?
And it looks like the last question we have in the chat is the break-even point, with you saying the reduction in 2035, that potentially could happen if nothing changes as it's going right now. Does that adjust taking it at age 62 or 67?
Yeah. So that reduction, that insolvency or shortfall, let's call it, in 2033 now is the date, in sometime in 2033. That's across, they're looking at it across the board. So if you were in 2032 and you were getting $1,000, in 2033, you're going to get everybody on every level is getting reduced by around 21 to 22% is the math that they're giving us right now. It's not zero. It's not great, but it's, you know, it's not zero. If I'm looking at my statement, because in 2032, I would be 62. So if I wanted, I could go ahead. So everything I'm seeing on my statement right now is showing me without a reduction. They don't put they have it on your statement that there could be a reduction in the future. They don't give you the math. So again, if I'm seeing a number at 62 and I go, well, I'll take it. I'll just wait. I'll go in at 63. When I go and I look at 63, the number I get off my statement is going to be, or the check I get is going to be lower than my statement because I have to take into account that 21 to 22% reduction. And again, that's across the board for no one is immune to that at all.
All right. I think that's it. Let's see here. Oh, Cena, San Francisco just asked, any WEP flyers or boilerplate language already created so we can email out to our retired members?
Yeah, I believe.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think there was something, again, because of our relationship with IAFF and you know, across everywhere. I think there was something because, again, I've been in Baltimore, Florida, and Alabama, and then now this one is the fourth one. So if I have anything, Stephen, I'll send it to you unless you already have something.
Yeah, that'd be great. Anything you have would be awesome. And then I'll disseminate it to all our leaders via email so that
Okay.
they can share it with their members. That was kind of the point of this, is we got a big push for retirees coming in to different locals. This is a huge win with the WEP, so it's great information. Tim, again, I really appreciate you spending time here. And if there are no more questions, I'm going to reclaim host and talk
Yes, sir.
about our next coffee talk. All right, Tim, thanks again.
Do you care if I drop off or do you need me to
not
stay?
at all. Not at all.
All right, guys.
Again, thank you.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. And we'll be signing off here as well shortly. But next coffee talk, guys, in the next month is going to be dealing with Constitution and bylaws. We'll have on the IFF General Counsel's office. So keep an eye out for that. We'll be posting this video. So if any members want to access it or any leaders want to access it on the YouTube channel and on our Team 10th website. So again, thanks everybody for jumping on. Unless anybody's got anything for me, I'll be getting off as well.
Thanks,
Questions?
Steve. This is great.
Yeah, happy to do it, Joe. Good seeing you, brother.
You too, my friend. Take care, everybody.
All right.